Okay, back onto this NV870. Now, one thing I didn't actually film was a bit of adjustment to the audio, and I think it was VR4510 there. It's on this board, not on the actual audio board. You've got to set up a couple of things as explained in the manual, because it was getting a bit of crackles in the hi-fi. It wasn't sounding too good. I ended up actually putting the head out of the Blaupunk machine that was sent with a new head drum in there. I'd put the other one out of this machine because it looked like a newer replacement one, and that actually works a bit better. But I think we've got the audio pretty well right, and I've been using this thing, giving it plenty of tests to make sure everything else is working alright, and it's not too happy with the belts. Now if the loading belts are playing up, you can just help these out a little bit. It managed to load in alright that time. And of course it managed to load out as well, so there you go. But you can just give these a little bit of a wind. Maybe this test tape's a bit lighter. Oh, it's decided to work now. So yeah, it's having some trouble with this loading. I actually had to give it a bit of a wind by hand to get it to load up. And also when ejecting, and of course it's decided to work now. But that belt definitely needs replacing. I don't think there's much else in this thing. Got a capstan belt, loading belt, and is that it? Oh, the idler tyre of course down in there, and I think that's about it. It should have a new brake band. Where's the kit? So kit comes with brake band, a complete idler assembly, so that's nice, you get to change a whole lot. We've even got the little roller there, belts, and a set of some of the circlips, well, look at it, that we probably have to take out. New pinch roller. Not sure what that belt's for. I don't know if that's for this machine, but it looks like we've got a load belt, two belts underneath, complete idler assembly, so that's all the main rubber parts. Let's have a look at that. Is that related to the idler? I don't think this machine... Oh, it is. So there is a second rubber part on these. I forgot about that. It's been so long since I've done one. I have to lift this part out, and there's a rubber surface that the idler tyre runs against. So that might even be the place to start on this. Now that one's nice and simple. You just pull it off, throw it away. We're going to have to take the bracket off the capstan motor to get this capstan through to the real belt off. You can see things are going a bit yellow. That's just from the rubber seems to affect them. I think we're going to definitely take this wheel off, I think, and pop it off from the other side maybe. Be worth a look at these anyway. Things like that where you can see there's a bit of hair in there. Another bit of hair. Carefully take that clip off. I think this comes out. Yeah, this is looking familiar. Little clutch assembly. All looks to be pretty good. Maybe a little bit of a dust off. A few little pieces of rubber on that. And of course the washer, keep that with it. Now I think we're pretty right to start on the upper side, and we'll take the front back off, which I think is just clipped in place for now. And plug. Take out the cassette housing, which we've got to do anyway because we've got to change that load belt, which is about the only belt in it that's really been playing up. The rest of them seem to all be alright. Pull the connector. Springs on the inner bit there. Take that off. Another clip to get the idler assembly off. Nice to not have to actually repair it for once, just replace it. Put the clip with that. And we have to get this assembly out. I think we have to take these two, I remember these now. I think that comes up alright, but we've got to get these two screws. And yeah, these two have got to go. Might be able to just cheat with a screwdriver. And just prise them apart a little bit. It's lucky they make a lot of these screwdrivers just the right width. Since circlip pliers always seem to end up getting broken for some reason or lost. And just remember there's a spring there, and we can almost take that brake band off. Now, well, these are a bit fiddly to get out, I'm trying to remember now. I think it's mainly just the brake band you've got to watch. Watch you don't wreck that. Did we have to, oh yeah, there we go, just got to jiggle it the right way. Couple of screws and we can remove this whole piece. And you should be able to slide the bits off, probably another plastic clip on there somewhere. Which there is. Well, at least I think there is, yeah, that's definitely locking it in, it's not just a washer. Bit more of a tricky one to get out. Where's the split? Right there. And there's the other little tyre. Let's check the rest of this thing. Definitely wants a bit of idler rubber and stuff cleaning off. That can do with a lube. That's actually got a bit of hairy looking stuff. Should just be a washer. Come on. Let's just take that off a second. I'll just wipe that off with my fingers and give that a clean. Yeah, a bit of fluffy muck under there. That might need a little bit of a clean up too. Grease is still pretty good on that by the look of it. I'll just get the dust off. I'll just put, there's a bit more dust. I'll just put a little bit of fresh grease. I don't think we need to pull that to bits to do it. I don't think it really matters too much to, the spring potentially turns with it, so better lube that up a bit. Make sure we get all these bits back on here. And just a little bit on the bottom of that spring. Now from memory these were a real pain to get off. I think the easiest way is just to cut them with a pair of side cutters, because you risk breaking this plastic. I think they're that hard. But that's my memory of how I used to do them. Would have done quite a few of these machines over the years. Not this particular model, but this deck. I mean, that's all that used to really go wrong with them most of the time. was a new set of belts, and away they went again. Stubborn little... I have to use a knife on this one. These, can't remember which cutters I used to use. These aren't working real well. I can get a screw once you've released it a bit. That's not so bad. They got usually hard as anything. I've cut most of the way through it, so it's made it a little bit easier to stretch. And that's that. So we want the new, basically bring that new kit out. Just realised that I'm giving us the right bit in this one. Well, that isn't that bit. Just realised that's the flat belt. Luckily, I did get a proper belt kit for it too. That's right, they come with the two sizes of idlers, one of which I don't think you ever use. So we did need a belt kit. I had a feeling there's something about those Overhaul kits, so I did order a belt kit, and I thought I think I got another one of these NV series somewhere I could use it in if I didn't need it, but there you go. You definitely need a, what's that, a VBK50 I think it is. If you're going to replace this, and there's no reason not to replace this because you want it to last a long time. Well, we've got our washer on. Yeah, I knew something weird, but yeah, when I saw that I thought, oh, that's that other piece, but after I cut the old one off, it's like, oh, that definitely isn't that piece, because it's just a flat belt. I think there was a machine that had a thin tyre like that, but that seems like a much older machine. So that's good. Does that move up and down? Yeah, it does when you don't have that pressing against it. Yeah, that's part of the, I think in rewind, fast forward, that gear engages this gear, so you've got direct drive, but in play you're going via the idler. And while we're in here, good chance there's lots of little bits of idler rubber everywhere. Doesn't really matter, but nice to clean all that stuff out. Nothing else to really lubricate around here. There is a little bit of grease. Looks pretty good. Let's just scrape a bit off, and yeah, that's just on the slide bars and stuff. That all seems to be good. Now that's got to go down a little hole. That lever, which presses against the brake band, I think it's some sort of braking when the mech levers push across on it. And these will just pretty much line themselves up. Only go in one way. Well, I'm glad I bought that belt kit, because I had a feeling you needed one. I think most of the time these you just put new belt kits in them for people and that was it, but occasionally there'd be one that we needed a bit more. It was worth getting the whole lot. I probably should have really moved that out. Again, just being careful with the brake band, even though we're going to replace this one. It's just a matter of getting that in the right spot. And put our clips back on. Make sure they're pushed home. Pretty straightforward really. All these mechs are the same basically, whether it's the hi-fi or one of the basic machines. Actually, we don't want the idler assembly, do we? We're not going to change the tyre on that. push, yeah, just push that white bit to match the other one to get it to go right down. And the clip back on that one. Oops, nearly didn't go on. If there's any little gap there, just squeeze them back together a bit, or fix them, just make sure they've gone right in the slot. Yeah, they're all free. Actually, I haven't got these bits in right. The second one should have gone over the other one, but they've gotten out. Had to be the fiddly one. There we go. That's why I double check everything, make sure everything's in the right spot. Another way to put them on is just press them on. They usually go on, and just use some pliers to push them down. So now we're definitely in the right spot. I think, which one is it? That one. Yeah, that one, when it's right out, pushes the other one out. And we've got the spring to put back. Was it on the third setting? Not sure how critical that is. They've made it so there's 3 different spots you can put it. Not sure if it tells you in the manual what you're meant to do with that, but... So while we've got this apart, next bit is the brake band. If you take these off to glue them, you can just mark where they were as the easiest way and just put them back in the same spot. So someone's actually, yeah, it's probably a good thing we're changing this. Someone hasn't glued the original bit back on, they've actually cut. You used to be able to buy the sticky stuff in a sheet. It looks to me how badly cut it is that someone, not that it probably matters, but someone has cut that and repaired it. Don't know why you wouldn't just put the old one back on, it was normally fine. This is a fully plastic one now by the look of it. Probably not a bad idea, they used to corrode from the glue on them sometimes. I've seen a few of them look a bit green. We'll have to set that a bit later. I don't have a proper tape, so I'm going to have to do it the manual way. But yeah, see, that's got a little bit of a bend in it too, which is never a good sign. If the copper gets bent on these, it's not the best thing. Used to have to be pretty careful with them not to try and bend up that end. So someone was a bit rough on this one. Probably not a bad idea to get rid of that. And while I've got it apart, oh, we better lube up the tape guides as well, I guess. There's a bit of dust and muck there. Someone's put some sort of yellowy grease that's gone away, I think. Sticky at least, so that's not the best. So someone has put something on these guides, but the 2 paths where the guides run, always worth cleaning them. About the worst it really happens is they sort of shudder as they go up, and then sounds horrible, that's about it. But eventually it's going to probably do some wear as well to the metal. Yeah, there's some weird yellow. And of course I just got it on the guide. Make sure you don't get grease on anything, that's why you always clean the whole tape path before you put any tapes in them. That's going to need a bit more cleaning. But this grease is pretty dried up. So I think I'll take that right off. That black stuff on this side is a bit sticky. The new stuff will just slide over it, I guess, but it doesn't have to get really old. It's been in there quite a few years now, so it probably isn't the best. Oh, we've got a hair. I can actually give this thing a clean while we've got easy access to it. Is always a good time. Capstan's actually nice and clean, which is good. Oh, we've still got to do the pinch roller too, and that other roller I guess we can change, even though I don't think I've ever seen one of them fail, but since it comes in the kit, though in some ways I wouldn't mind changing the roller later, just so we don't have too many things to adjust at once. We might be able to work out a way to get it the same height. Just make sure I've got no grease on there or anywhere. Yeah, no, did that. What has happened to the pinch roller? Someone's done a bit of a dodgy here too, by the look of it. That's not a good sign. Someone broken the someone's split. So someone's put something in there to fix it. That's actually a pretty good pinch roller. I don't think that's been replaced too long ago. It's definitely not the original, because the original on this machine would normally be starting to get cracked and stuff. These don't need lubing, they've got a little bearing down inside them there, unless they really had their day. Yeah, still a reasonably tight fit. I think it's alright, but now that I've got my hands all over that, we'll give that a clean as well. But yeah, it's a nice, about as clean as they ever look. Once you get tapes on there, you can never get them perfect again. Well, I'm just gonna, best way to roughly get the height, check it again with the tape in there, is it's about the width of that screwdriver blade. I guess you could count the threads down there if you really wanted to. Okay, it's a 5.5 mil, because this is sitting on a spring, so it'll rise up as we undo it. Up to that point there where it just stopped. I bet that's going to fall out, isn't it? It's just this little plastic bit they supply. So I wonder they don't crack really, given the age of them, but I don't know if I've ever seen a broken one of those. Don't think they go any particular way, they're just completely symmetrical. Just don't want it too far out when you first check things. That's pretty well spot on where it was. But we'll just make sure that's not folding the tape or anything. Yeah, looking across the machine, you can see it's pretty lined up with the erase head there and the guide here. But if you have that too far out, it'll probably start crunching tapes or something. What are the other parts I got in here? I've got one clip, so I guess given that's out a little bit, maybe we'll put the, I think these are more just in case you lose something. But we might put a new one on the idler since we've got one. See if you can stick it to, do the stick it to your hand trick. That's the only one that tends to wear out in these machines, because they're in and out more than anything else. Yeah, that's better. That's a nice new one. Doesn't have any sign of splitting or anything. The other one was a little bent. That more than likely has been changed at some stage in this machine's life. Okay, so pinch roller, idler, levers are back in place like they should be. Clean everything. Might give the heads one more cleaning, though I have cleaned them before just to make sure everything was right. There's bound to be a little bit of stuff come off the upper drum. It's not the world's most shiny one. Being very careful not to do anything too violent near the heads themselves. Often as the metho soaks into these things, you'll get more and more come off. There is a bit stuck up the top of the drum on this one. Always nice to get them well polished, which can take a time sometimes before there's no more dirt coming off. Okay, now let's have a look at the cassette housing. So yeah, we just got to lift that little bit there. You can just flick the belt off or cut it off if you really want to. And it's just this plastic clip here. Thankfully they haven't gone brittle. Now we should better just lift this up. Try not to pull it out more than you need to. I'll just give that a bit of a clean. Just rotate the remote around. Good practice to clean out a little bit of yellowy stuff coming out there, yellowy brown. Some mix you've got to be careful about not turning this gear. I don't think this is one of them. Actually, I think we can take this piece right out. That's gooey grease. So good thing I checked that. Yeah, we might have to re-grease the main gear. So clean down inside there where this piece sits. And I'm going to have to try and get some of the grease off the actual main unit. That's got a bit of something down in there. I don't know what that used to be. And yeah, all these teeth have a little bit of muck in them. Probably a good idea to, if you can get any black bits of stuff out with a fine screwdriver or something, just in case they're causing any friction. Plus I may have to get rid of some of the grease off this unit. It doesn't feel too bad there, it's not sticky. So that's a good sign. Must have just been on this other bit more, but the fact it's on that bit means some of it would have transferred. So I'll get what I can over that off. It's coming off pretty well. I'll just use a bit of metho soaked paper towel on this. Yeah, I think there's a few hairs and stuff tied up in there as well. Bit of something. Might even need the toothbrush or something on this. Well, you can probably run a screwdriver carefully down there. It's pretty hard brass stuff. And just try and scrape the worst of that sticky grease out of there. Maybe even a bit of degreaser, automotive degreaser or something to be the go on this to get it perfectly clean. It's breaking down a bit now from the methyl, I think, so can probably just poke a bit of this in there and wind it. Yeah, that's getting it pretty clean. And this polyglide plastic grease is the best stuff for these sort of things, but any grease will probably do. Even though this particular part's metal. And there was a whole heap around the end. And we wanted to put it on this, maybe not a lot, but some on this other gear as well. But some on this load gear where we cleaned it off. And you can run it a few times and it'll sort of smear itself around. Make sure it's gone over everything. Put that bit back in. Get a new belt on there. Being careful not to get any grease on the belt. Clip back on. This little clip should just push back in there. And being careful not to damage the belt with the pliers, we'll just pull that back over. Oh, didn't go quite on. Wind it on, make sure it's right. Give the mech a bit of a run. It's going to hit the, it's got a little lever there to stop it going in with no tape. There's one on the other side as well, just to be annoying. Barrel seems good. That's got quite a bit of black muck on it. And we can start putting all our bits back in. That and its washer. So it had a tiny little bit of grease there that went hard. We'll just put a little daub back on those plastic bits. Where they slide against this other gear. That's got little slots that's got to go down on. Put a pulley back on and the clip. That needs a clean as well. Capstan belt over to the reel and our load belt. Yeah, so that overhaul kit had all the right belts except for that one bit that goes with the idler, so that's a bit odd. Make sure everything's free, which it is, normally is. Okay, let's try this thing out. using a dummy tape of course. Everything seems to be going. Guess we should try vision search. Put it through all its modes. Of course, it gave up there because there's nothing to indicate that the tape's in there. I'll still go and rewind. Usually you gotta turn one of the reels. Anyway, that gives us a good indication everything's working. Now I've got to fill in the VU meters, or the channels are out or something on the hi-fi a little bit, so we'll just try a hi-fi tape, see what the VU tells us. I recorded that at a bit of higher level, but yeah, one of them's higher than the other, just slightly. And that's on a tape that I just recorded, that same signal going to each side. Seems to play back fine on that machine. So now we've got to really just check, is that the actual levels coming out of this? So I have to poke it into the oscilloscope, or is it the VU meters are out? I'm sure there's probably an adjustment in here somewhere for VU meters. If you've got a known good machine, then it's easy enough to make your own test tape, really. Since you can't really buy them anymore, and there was no real need to buy them if you made them on good equipment. They were as good as the bought ones, or close enough, as far as just like audio level and that type of thing go anyway. 0.5, 0.5. Yeah, one channel is slightly down compared to the other. Okay, just check the manual, and it is VR450 and 8, which are the two little ones near this shield on the audio board that set the audio level off the tape. And I've got that on the oscilloscope screen as well, which I can't really get all in one shot. And again, is the right size screwdriver. Might need an even finer one. That's definitely it. Yeah, they're both showing the same. So it's simply a matter of adjusting that. And best to look on the oscilloscope just with a 1 kHz test pattern, or any sort of sine wave, so you can check that they're both the same. Yeah, it's looking pretty good so far, and I've still got to check the record on this. I'm running out of time again tonight, so I might have to get on that tomorrow and do some final checks on the picture, give the audio a good run. But I have given this thing a bit of a test. Besides the crack of the audio, everything else seemed to be working alright. Well, I think finally got this machine all fully working. Every time we try it seems to be something else playing up, but it all seems to be fine now. I've checked the audio settings. I did think for a while that there was an issue with the AV input audio being too low compared to like playing a pre-recorded tape or anything, but turned out, of course, the good old trick of these days, you're using a set-top box, and of course they've got a volume control in them, so always make sure if you're using a set-top box as a signal that the volume's actually turned up. That's always a common problem in the old days when we still had analog television. We just would have used the tuner in this thing. I did check the tuner section. This all seems to work, at least on a mono signal. I don't actually have a stereo modulator to fully test it, but that part of the machine all seems to work as well. And we've got a bit of a recording I just did in this thing. That sounded very good. Of course, a few dropouts there. That's just a set-top box. I think I've actually got too much signal going into it with an outdoor antenna, so I might have to drop that down a bit. But yeah, it does freeze up and do that sort of jittery audio thing occasionally. And of course, if you're recording at the time, you get that. But yeah, it's running quite well. It is a little picky on some of the lower quality old second-hand tapes I got. That NV870 does track them a little bit better, but it's probably got much lower hour heads in it. So the heads might be getting down a little bit in this thing. But any good tapes, it seems to play fine. Plays its own recording back fine. I did just check a few of these other audio adjustments. This audio channel balance adjustment, it sounds a bit like it's something to do, make sure that the line output level is less than 0.5 dB compared with channel 1 and channel 2 inputs. So it sounds like it sets the line output versus the input levels, but it's not actually the case. This actually is like a balance control on a stereo amplifier. It sits between the two channels. If I actually looked it up in the block diagram of the audio section, at least in the AGC position, you've obviously got manual controls in the other setting. But this actually, that's 4511, little blue pot on the audio board. There's audio playback, which I did, setting the two channels the same because the meters were showing they were slightly out. There's an audio muting adjustment. All that is the, tells you a bit on here, which is, I think it tells you the pot there, doesn't it? 4585. Put the audio select in the stereo, playback the recorded portion, and basically with any tape, or whether it's its own recording or not, that is actually so it flicks between the hi-fi and the normal indication on the stereo without, basically the normal position mutes the hi-fi. So if you've got bad hi-fi sound, it needs to switch straight into the normal sound and basically drop out of the hi-fi, otherwise you get all that scratchy sound. So that one's just to set that so that as soon as there's bad tracking or a bad tape or something in there, it will, or even, you know, like the transfer from one recording to another on the tape, where you get a bit of a dropout between one recording and another, potentially, that sort of snowy section for a little bit. It wants to, as soon as that comes along, it needs to switch to normal stereo or linear stereo, which will just give you nothing normally, and you don't get all that scratchy hi-fi sound. So that's about all. I just sort of checked over a few of those things, all seem to be right. Levels all seem to be right. Once I turn that set-top box up, of course, the AV input level and the playback level of like a pre-recorded tape, commercial tape, basically the same on the VU, and those other settings were just so when you record something on it, it comes out at the same level as what you recorded. And that seems to be about it. I think we've actually finally got this thing fully working. Couldn't find any other issues with it. You basically just got to check all the different settings, AGC recording, non-AGC, where you can manually do it. I tried the slow. This has got a bit better slow, I think, than the NV870, because we've got a plus and minus button, so you can set it into slow mode. It'll sort of go frame by frame, but you can speed it up or slow it down. One of those sort of features which was cool at the time when it came out, and then most people never used it again. But if you wanted to do replays of sport and that sort of thing, it was very handy to have that feature. But yeah, most people, we were impressed that they could do such a good picture frame by frame, which was quite a thing in the day, because a lot of machines, the pause was terrible, and yeah, any sort of frame movement using the pause button or something was pretty useless, and poor quality, a lot of tracking lines. So these machines were quite good at doing that. But yeah, nice VU meters on this thing. This has got the VU and the other function meters that tell you like you're in play, etc., all on the one display, unlike the 850, which has them on two separate displays. So they've just combined them together. But yeah, quite nice. Got the little peak hold in orange. So like some of their higher end tape decks, as in audio cassette players. And yeah, everything seems to finally be going. It's been quite an effort to get this thing going, and I haven't had as much time as I would like to put into it. So it's been a bit on and off. Now it's got the full maintenance kit in it. So the belts, pinch roller, brake band, all those sort of things that wear out or fall apart over time should be fine in it. And hopefully the electronics will be reliable now. It was mainly just replace that faulty colour board. The audio board, we fixed it and just checked the adjustments. And that was the main issues with this. Looks like I think some of the caps in the power supply have already been changed in this thing. And I did resolder this bottom circuit board underneath the main sort of servo board that fits under here. When I first got it, I think that was the first video I did on it, because that was terrible, the soldering on that. It was full of dry joints. And of course we changed the drum assembly in this, which had corroded. And hopefully that second hand one will keep going for a long time. And that's about it. I think we can finally pack this up. And might as well send those good boards back. And there's a good upper drum on that lower drum assembly. So there's a good head that can be used as a spare, even though it didn't seem to be quite as good as this one, even though it had been replaced at some stage. But it's still a usable head. So I don't think you can buy new sets of heads for this model anymore. So it pays to have a good second-hand one, and of course you've got the remains of an old Blaupunk machine. Probably should see if I can get some photos of that, which model it was, because basically some of these, luckily when I looked up the maintenance kit on these on the Wagner website, it did show a couple of oddball model numbers there, which took me a little while to click, or it might have been when I looked up the heads. I can't remember one of them anyway, and might have actually been under the head listing. And there was a couple of weird model numbers, but it took me a little while to recall what they were. And then I realised, of course, there was Blaupunk rebadged versions of these machines, and that's what he ended up finding to get the drum out of. There are American versions and stuff, but you can't be 100% sure. They list different type of heads in them, so I don't know what the difference with an NTSC machine would be in the heads. I would have just thought they'd have different tuners for the different TV stations, obviously different colour decoding circuits in there. So, and of course there are machines made that are multi-standard and they have the same set of heads doing everything, so no idea whether there's a real difference in them or not, I don't know. But if you look up the part numbers, they are different, and then there's, of course, there's a risk there's something different in the lower drum or something. I wouldn't think so, but you just don't know with these things. So much safer to get another power machine. And of course luckily we did, because we needed the power colour board out of it to replace it. Seemed like one of those little chips was faulty on that, so we wouldn't have been able to get one of those, and big job to unsolder the things without doing any damage to anything. So it worked out alright in the end, but I think this thing can finally go home to Western Australia again, and fingers crossed it keeps going for a long time. Should do. Normally they're a pretty good machine, but this one was certainly quite a bit of hassle compared to what we used to get wrong with these things. But same with that 850, I just fixed it as well. That was a lot more work than they usually are, just again because of the age and sitting around doing nothing. But at least it seems to be going. I might just do one more video before I send it back. I'll do a video with both this and the 850 in there, because it'll be interesting to at least just look at the two things side by side, because I doubt I'll ever see the pair of them together again. Because these was quite a rare machine, though. I think a lot of it was they just didn't break down much, so they were rare to see machine, put it that way. The 850 seemed to be a lot more common, but maybe a lot of people that were early adopters went and bought the 850, and by the time this came out wasn't much difference, so no one wanted to upgrade. There must have been some new customers that bought them, new to owning a VCR or new to upgrading to hi-fi. But yeah, certainly one of the nicer machines. This one, not the nicest one I ever worked on, but that's what you get with these machines now. They're getting so old, and it's been a good chance to actually refresh myself a bit with some of the different bits and pieces to do with VCRs, because I do have a few of them around here now, so I must get in and fix up the ones I've got, or at least look at them, see if they can be fixed. Got quite a few older, bigger machines, and some more of this sort of era. I might even get a photo of these two and the couple of those later machines, the G-Mech and the K-Mech, and I think that other one I looked at in one of the recent videos is even a later mech than that, is a Z-Mech or something. But anyway, it looks like we've finally got good news on this thing. Maybe we can get home for Christmas. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'll be glad to see the back end of it, I must say. It's been here a bit too long, and well, we did have to wait for parts for quite a while, and I just haven't had the time to really put into it. But did a few interesting things with it, tracking down the colour issues and stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching.